46. Manila. Ben.
Caleb hits the water seconds later. The younger man shifts into a perfect freestyle, long arms pulling at the water as he swims away. Ben took a few swim lessons as a kid. He spent long summer days at the Y staying cool at the pool with his buddies. As an adult, he used to take his son, Sam, fishing at Lake Berry in the summers. The two of them had often gone out for swims in the afternoon when it got hot. This sums up Ben's experience in the water. Not wanting to look like an ass, Ben takes off after Caleb, attempting to mimic the form of the younger man. He tries to recall his childhood swim lessons. He can't even recall the name of his teacher, let alone anything she taught him. When he and Sam swam in the lake during their fishing expeditions, they had foam noodles or some sort of floaty to rely on. It doesn't take long for him to realize swimming in the bay is vastly different from swimming anywhere else. Not only is the water cold as fuck, but the current wants to push him south, away from Manila. Already, his muscles are burning. He takes in a mouthful of salt water with every other stroke, and he thought running sucked ass. Barely 5 minutes in the water, and he has no illusion as to which is the more difficult of the two.
Ben!
He pretends not to hear the voice calling after him from the boat.
Ben!
He keeps paddling, settling for a pathetic dog paddle in lieu of the freestyle stroke he can't do anyway. Caleb is already 50 yards ahead of him. A minute later, something round and white is thrown in his direction. It splashes 10 feet to his right. A life preserver. It's a knife to his pride, but fuck it. He doesn't want to drown out here while Golden Boy takes all the credit for saving Kate and the others. He paddles over to the life preserver and grabs it. Latching onto it, he starts kicking. Now this is more like it. He can almost imagine he's back at Lake Berry with Sam. He misses the kid. He misses him a lot. He's spent his whole life missing Sam. It started the minute he exited the hospital, leaving his newborn, and all the rights to him in the hands of his mother. He never should have done it. He thought it had been the right thing for Sam, but he remembers how sick he felt when he signed the custody papers. He wanted to tell Sam's mother that he'd resign his commission and move nearby to help raise their son. The sentences tried to force their way past his lips, but even back then, words had failed him. He was lucky Sheila never tried to keep Sam from him. She let him visit when he was on leave. She made sure Sam got all the letters Ben wrote. She even made sure the kid sent him a birthday card once a year, and let Ben take him on trips during the summer. Ben pushes away thoughts of Sam. He knows, without a doubt, he'll never see his son again. If the boy is even alive, he's on the other side of the country. He shifts his focus to Caleb, who's now 100 yards in front of him. Gritting his teeth, Ben kicks in a vain attempt to keep up with him. He periodically dunks his head into the water to check for zombs. The salt water stings his eyes, but he'll take stinging eyes over a zombite any day. Caleb is already out of the water by the time Ben reaches the shoreline. He stands there like a young Greek god. Ben never looked that good, not even when he was young and in the best shape of his life after boot camp. "Ben!" Caleb waves his arms to get his attention, his soft voice nearly swallowed by the lapping water. "Move! There are zombs in the water!" Ben pours on speed, kicking as hard as he can. He opens his eyes underwater. Everything is murky, but he spots two pale white forms below him in the water. Fuck and double fuck. He's exhausted from the long paddle from the Fairhaven. His legs feel like jelly, and his breath is raw fire in his throat. He kicks harder, trying to get ahead of the zombies. As he reaches the shoreline, he feels something tickle against his leg. He kicks harder. The rocks of the shore bite into his knees. He pulls his feet beneath him and starts to stand. Something grabs his leg. Before he can act, Caleb is there, knife in hand. He pounces, knife slashing through the water. The fingers around Ben's ankle release. As Ben hurries the rest of the way to shore, he sees a zom float to the surface of the water. "I saw it as I swam in," Caleb says. "It was walking along the bottom of the bay. It followed the sounds of my kicks all the way to shore." Ben grunts, exhausted from the swim and pissed off that he owes one to Caleb. He sits down on a boulder to catch his breath. "Why did you volunteer for this mission if you can't swim?" Caleb asks. "I can swim." Caleb gives him an exasperated look. "You know what I mean." "Not a lot of water in the sandbox. Ben." He spits out a mouthful of salty saliva, scowling up at the young man. "Because Kate was getting ready to do it, okay?" "And you wanted to protect her?" Caleb is prodding him. "Fuck that. We can't afford to lose her," Ben snaps. "She holds everything together. We'd all be zombie snacks if not for her." Caleb tilts his head, studying Ben in a way that makes him want to sock the other man. "That's why I did it. Well, that and the fact that I'm a good swimmer. You can brag about it when we get back to the boat." Ben stands, wincing as rocks cut into his bare feet. Fuck. Looking down, he realizes how badly he is in need of new underwear. There's a tear in one side he hadn't noticed before. Could this day get any worse? He hopes Kate didn't notice. He looks like a crazy old man from an asylum. Caleb smirks at him. "Dude, we'll find you some better drawers before we go back. Can't let your woman see you looking scruffy." Ben feels his face heat. He flips Caleb the bird and stalks off. His destination is a dock with two small motorboats lashed in place. The boats have taken on water and are half submerged on the shore. No one said they needed working boats, just boats with gas. He changes course midstream. Finding the boats is all well and good, but they need something to put the gas in. He angles away from the water. The house nearest the dock had been an elegant mansion in the 70s. The wood is peeling and worn from the salt water. The windows are all leaking, the glass fogged from the inside. The roof looks like it endured its own private apocalypse long before the actual apocalypse. Off to his right, the water of Humboldt Bay laps at the shore. The coastal breeze rustles the wind-bent pine trees and thick clumps of calla lilies growing near the shore. He bypasses the house, heading instead for the shipping container on the south side of the house. No doubt the owner stored all sorts of shit inside. That's just the sort of place he'll find a gas can. He pulls out a knife and zombat, keeping an eye out for undead. He's grateful as he steps onto unmowed lawn, much better than moving on sharp gravel. Sensing movement behind him, he looks back to see Caleb following. Little fucker. Anger crawls up his spine, indignant at the other man's simple existence. Focus, dumbass, he tells himself. Getting distracted is going to get him killed. Reaching the container, he pauses outside to survey it. The outside has been spray-painted with graffiti. Someone went to the trouble to place baskets of fake flowers on either side of the doors, along with a doormat that says, "Welcome." Maybe this was someone's man cave. Or a woman's cave. Whatever. He taps a hand on the shed. To his dismay, a growl comes from inside. Damn. He'd been hoping to get lucky. "You sure we need to go in there?" Caleb licks his lips, tightening his grip on his weapons. "Where else are we going to find a gas can? The master bedroom? Get ready. On 3. Caleb's answering glare brings satisfaction. It's short-lived. Turning back to the shed, Ben prepares to face whatever is on the other side. He grips the door latch. It lets loose an awful metallic squeal as he lifts it, rusted from exposure of the sea air. It's like a foghorn going off. 2 reeking zombies jerk into the sunlight. They're dressed all in camouflage, bandoliers slung across their chests. Caleb and Ben raise their weapons, bracing for combat. But the zombies don't advance on them. They dance in the doorway of the container, moaning and swiping at the air. What the fuck? Caleb frowns. Ben follows the younger man's gaze. That's when he notices the blue dog leashes wrapped around each zombie's neck, holding them in place. The leashes are suspended from the ceiling just inside the container. "They must have hung themselves," Caleb says. "I don't think so. Their feet touch the ground." Ben scans the area, the skin between his shoulder blades crawling. "I think someone strung them up inside to protect their assets." He pulls a small, battery-operated flashlight off his belt. It's no longer than his palm, but the beam is bright. "Where did you get that?" Caleb asks. "Found it in a dorm room." He always carries it on his belt, just for times like this. Good thing it still works after being dunked in salt water. He shines the beam into the container. His jaw drops open. "Do you see what I see?" Caleb whispers. "It's a prepper's wet dream in there." The younger man isn't exaggerating. Inside the container are enough supplies to rival a Walmart. "Holy fuck," Caleb breathes. "We've hit the jackpot, old man." "Maybe." Ben can't shake the unease that crawls between his shoulder blades. "We can't assume this place is abandoned. These zombs look like guard dogs to me." Guard dogs Ben intends to eliminate. He brings the zombat down into the forehead of the first zom. Then he whips the bat sideways and takes out the second. The undead dangle from their leashes, brain matter dripping onto the ground. Come on. Let's find a gas can and get what we came for. Before whoever strung up the guard zoms comes back. Ben shoulders his way past the corpses, Caleb on his heels. He scans the interior, trying not to get caught up in the sight of all that canned food. He's here for a gas can, not refried beans. Old man, we seriously need to get you new underwear, especially if you're going to walk around looking like that. Caleb hurls a small plastic package at him. Ben catches the package. Looking like what? Like that. Caleb gestures to him. Like a lovesick puppy. Except you're too grumpy to be a puppy. A lovesick alligator. Does everyone know how he feels about Kate? Hell, he can barely put words to it. No one else seems to have that problem. I'm not lovesick. Whatever. Are those your size? Ben looks down at the plastic package in his hands. It contains brand new boxer briefs, similar to the ones Caleb wears. They're all black. You know what? Caleb asks. It doesn't matter if they're your size. Anything is better than those rags you have on. Your ballsack is hanging out. Scandalized, Ben takes a minute to survey himself. It is not, he snaps. Whatever. It's about to hang out. Just change, old man. You're hurting my eyes. Caleb takes the flashlight from him and ventures deeper into the container. Ben changes, kicking the old underwear into a corner. Good riddance. For what it's worth, I think she likes you too, Caleb says from the back of the container. She's too good for you, by the way. That's one thing they both agree on. Man, they have a decent amount of weapons. We need to bring the boat back here and load up. That's a terrible fucking idea. Just thinking about it makes Ben's shoulders itch even worse. Someone left those zoms here to guard their shit. What if they come back and we're here? I'm telling you, those guys are the owners and they hung themselves. Don't tell me you wouldn't love to have extra weapons for the attack on Rosario's people. Of course he wants more weapons. What an asinine thing to say. It's too risky. This place is abandoned and ripe for the picking, Caleb replies. You're just being paranoid. Everything is going to be fine. Is that what you told yourself when you teamed up with Johnson? Caleb stops cold, giving Ben a scathing look. Are you ever going to let that go? Can you let it go? Ben counters. You have 16 deaths on your shoulders. They're as much on my shoulders as they are on yours. Ben narrows his eyes. I tried to save them. You just stood there. Caleb's mouth tightens. I'm not going to argue with you. It's pointless. He stalks out of the container. Ben marches after him, anger pounding in his temples the way it always does when he thinks of the murdered College Creek kids. Just because Caleb eventually found the balls to kill Johnson doesn't clear his name. Far from it. Ben can count the number of hours he's slept in the last 2 days. 6. 6 fucking hours. Every time he tries to close his eyes, he sees those poor kids. He sees Cynthia. That sweet girl deserved a chance at life. Caleb stood by while Johnson stole it from her. Ben wants to punch a hole in something. Caleb heads to the dock. As he crunches over the ground on his bare feet, Ben hears a succinct snick. Too late, he registers the long line of catfish wire strung across the ground. "Get down!" he screams at Caleb. He dives for the younger man. The two of them roll across the ground as a loud pop echoes in the air. A flare whistles upward, leaving a long trail of orange smoke above Manila. Ben missed a tripwire only because he'd walked on the grass to spare his feet. The wire was clearly put up to snare anyone walking toward the container. Or away, in Caleb's case. Fuck! Ben knew they weren't alone. Now they've just alerted the owner of that shipping container. Move! Get to the gas! He and Caleb haul ass to the dock with their gas cans. Caleb siphons the gas while Ben scans the area for hostiles. Damn it, he needs a gun. When the owner of that container shows up, they're fucked. Nothing moves in or around the house. The silence makes Ben even edgier. "Almost done," he snaps. "Almost. Let me fill this second can. Get the paddleboard ready." "The what?" "The paddleboard." Caleb gestures with his chin at a giant, bright red oblong object. "How old are you, man? Haven't you ever seen a stand-up paddleboard?" "Spend 30 years of your military career in the sandbox and see how much you know about shit like that." He stomps over to the paddleboard. Using some bungee cords they found in the bunker, he straps the first gas can into place. He keeps up a constant surveillance of their surroundings, ready for the attack. It doesn't come. Seconds tick by as Caleb fills the second gas can. Ben's palms are sweaty with anticipation. They should have been here by now. Whoever set up that alarm system should be back here to defend their possessions. Where are they? Maybe whoever stockpiled the container is dead. Caleb scurries over with the second gas can. Maybe I was right about those two zombs. Ben wants to believe that. But he can't shake the feeling shit is about to go sideways. Let's get the fuck out of here. He won't be able to relax until they're back at the Fairhaven. "47. Speedboats. Kate." Ben and Caleb are halfway back to the Fairhaven, rowing a paddleboard across the water. The rest of us stand alert, rifles raised and pointed toward the shoreline. Just because I've never fired one doesn't mean I'll hesitate. Whoever set that flare gun trap obviously wants to know if someone trespasses on their space. I don't intend to let anyone hurt Ben or Caleb. "Do you hear that?" Reed tilts his head to one side, frowning. "It's a buzzing sound." Shit. Worry spiders over my skin. The last time we heard a distant buzzing sound, it was an Alpha army on the march. "Which direction?" I ask. "South, toward Eureka," Reed says. I grab the binoculars and scan the horizon. 2 dots bob on the water, getting larger with each passing second. I hear the distinct rumble of engines. Fuck. I push the binos at Reed. "Do you see what I see?" Reed grabs the binoculars from me. "Boats," he says grimly. "2 of 'em. They're coming right for us." Damn it. Fear pounds through me. I have no doubt these are the people who set up the flare gun. I don't know what's in Manila, but it's obvious they want to protect it. Ben! Caleb! I wave my arms to get their attention, not bothering to lower my voice. We have company! I point in the direction of the oncoming boats. A flurry of curses carries across the water. The two men haul ass back toward the Fairhaven on their paddleboard, arguing the whole way. I told you the owners were coming back, Ben says. How was I supposed to know they'd come by water? Caleb snaps. Shut up and paddle. Fear and irritation pound in my temples. I can't listen to them anymore. How long before those boats reach us? I ask Susan. Her lips press into a thin line. 3 minutes, tops. Leo, I need your help. Susan passes him a funnel. I need you to start pouring the gas in as soon as Caleb and Ben get here. I'm going to fire up the Fairhaven. Leo positions the funnel in the gas opening just as the paddleboard bumps up against the side of the boat. Caleb lobs the first gas canister over the side. Reed passes it to Leo, who immediately begins pouring it into the funnel. There's a bunker on shore, Caleb says in a rush as he clambers on board. Enough stuff to stock Creekside for a month. We think those guys are the owners. He jerks a thumb at the oncoming boats. And dipshit here set off their tripwire. Ben jumps onto the deck, face flushed with fury. He marches over to the weapons pack, pulling out ammo clips and his rifle. It's a really bad time to notice how good he looks mostly naked. Or the fact that he found a new pair of underwear. Hope you're ready to shoot that thing. Ben hands me an extra clip of ammo. His face is set, eyes focused. Get ready to defend the Fairhaven. The boats are no longer dots on the horizon. They're close enough for me to see that they're 2 speedboats. A look through the binoculars shows me 3 men on each boat, all of them armed. They're closing in on us. We have to go, I shout. Leo, close the fuel tank. Susan, fire up the Fairhaven. We're out of time. The Fairhaven sputters to life, the charter boat coughing as fuel races back through its engine. Susan leans into the accelerator. Come on, girl, she murmurs. Get us the hell out of here. We can't outrun those boats. Ben raises his rifle, sighting down the scope. His lean muscles are taut, the tattoos tense along both arms as he takes aim. Before he can fire, gunshots crack from our pursuers. Bullets pierce the water on either side of us. One bullet hits the back of the Fairhaven. Motherfuckers! Susan screams. Ben fires. A spray of glass goes up from the closest of the speedboats. Almost as soon as Ben starts shooting, the speedboats fall back. They slow enough to stay out of range, but close enough to tail us. Fuckers, Ben growls, lowering his gun. The Fairhaven gains speed as Susan aims the boat in a southward direction. Directly in front of us looms Indian Island, a small chunk of land that sits in the middle of Humboldt Bay. Susan aims her boat toward a narrow channel on the east side of the island. The speedboats continue to follow us. What do you think they want? I ask. That bunker is where they store their supplies, Ben says. Most likely, they want to protect it. But we've left. We didn't steal anything besides gas from sunk boats. They don't know that. You think they want to risk a shootout over some stuff even after we've left? He shakes his head. I don't know what they want, but they're following us, which isn't a good sign. He stalks away and grabs his fatigues, climbing back into them. Leo, I say, any idea who these guys are? Did you have any run-ins with them when you lived in Eureka? No, Leo replies. We occasionally spotted other groups when we were out scavenging, but mostly we avoided one another. The speedboats maintain a safe distance behind us, but always stay within eyesight. I edge over to Ben, who is once again fully clothed. Do you think they're herding us into an ambush?
The thought did cross my mind.
His gaze flicks to the speedboats and back to me.
We need people on the bow and stern.
I nod. Eric, Caleb, Reed, come with me, I call. We're keeping watch on the bow. Ben, Ash, and Leo, you guys patrol the stern. As I lead my team onto the bow, the Fairhaven leaves Indian Island behind. We return to the wider part of the bay. To our right is a narrow peninsula dotted with homes and rolling sand dunes. On our left is the city of Eureka. I haven't seen Eureka since I first journeyed to Arcata to find Carter. At that time, I'd been able to navigate the city and avoid zombies by being quiet. That wouldn't be possible now. The waterfront streets I once moved through on foot are now packed with zombies. They turn in our direction as we approach, many of them walking right into the water as they attempt to follow our sound.
Oh my God, Reed says. It's a Costco. Anyone want to try and load up on samples before we go to Fort Ross?
He points to the giant wholesale store that backs up to the bay.
Pay attention,
Ben snaps at him. Costco. It's surrounded by the undead. I can't help but wonder what might be inside. Maybe when Johnny and Gary learn more of the Alpha language, we'll be able to drive the zombies back and get inside the store. But those are thoughts for another day. I turn my attention back to the water. It's a clear path between here and Hookton Channel, the waterway that leads from Humboldt Bay to the open waters of the Pacific Ocean. The speedboats are still tailing us. My unease ratchets up several notches. Everything is looking too easy. I edge around the boat in Susan's direction. She's the only one of us that's seen this waterway semi-recently. Do you recall anything about this area those guys might use against us? Susan's expression is tight. That's the town of Samos. She points to a tiny town on the peninsula to our right. It's little more than a scattering of homes and rolling sand dunes. That's where Gary was attacked by the Great White. There's a lot of zombs in the water. This area is dangerous. If those pricks on the speedboats make a move, it's going to be in here.
Kate, there's something in the water,
Eric calls from the bow.
Grab the binoculars.
I hurry back to the bow, binos in hand. I study the area of water indicated by Eric. The water is dotted with pale white objects. Are those? I frown, leaning closer for a better look. What I see chills me to my core. Holy fuck. We're in trouble. All across the bay are zombies. Hundreds and hundreds of zombies, all of them thrashing around in the water. There's no clear path through them.
What is it?
Ben hustles over to us. His nostrils flare when he sees the zombies.
Motherfuckers. It's a trap.
What's happening? Susan demands. There's no time to sugarcoat our situation. The bay is clogged with zombies. How? They should be sinking? Susan's voice is pitched with panic. They always sink unless they're really dead. All I can do is stare at the hundreds of undead in the water. As we get closer, I see ropes around the zombie necks, holding them in place. Someone captured all these zombies and strung them across this section of the bay. We are so fucked if any of those body parts get stuck in the propeller, Susan cries. We have to do something.
Those assholes drove us right into their dragnet, Ben growls. Fucking pirates.
A look over my shoulder confirms Ben's suspicion. The two speedboats are edging closer to us. If we accelerate to get away, we risk our boat getting tangled in the zombies.
Goddamn assholes,
Ben snarls.
If those fuckers want an old-fashioned shootout, I'll give 'em one.
"48. Dead Waters. Ben."
His attention narrows on the 2 speedboats. Ben can practically feel the smug bastards gloating. No way are these fuckers getting the best of them. "Eric, Ash, Caleb," he barks. "Rifles up. We're going to take out those bastards. The goal is to kill them before they get close enough to kill us." "I'm a good shot." Leo shoulders up with his rifle. "I've been hunting since I was a kid." Ben nods. "Line up, soldier." He, Caleb, Ash, Eric, and Leo spread out in a line along the stern.
"I need everyone else up here,"
Kate calls.
"We're going to shoot through the ropes. The zombs will sink if the rope isn't holding them up. Susan, keep the boat moving. We'll clear the way for you."
Kate wastes no time getting to work. The sound of gunfire is the best music Ben has heard since they started this insane mission. He can't help feel a burst of pride as he watches Kate take aim from the bow. He turns his attention back to the assholes in the speedboat. Ben raises his rifle and sights down the scope, looking for the first bastard who's going to die. He exhales and taps the trigger. His shot goes wide, splitting the windshield. Fuck. He's a decent shot, but hitting a moving target at 200 yards while standing on the back of a charter boat is a tall order. The rifles crack on either side of him as his companions open fire. One man on a speedboat goes down. "Hell yeah," Eric mutters. "Take that, asshole." As Ben sights through the scope again, he sees his next target raise his own rifle. Fuck. These guys really need to die. Bullets pierce the water all around them, a few even hitting the Fairhaven. The rest of his companions crouch low for cover, but Ben maintains an upright position. He shoots 3 more times, finally dropping his target. He edges the rifle to the right, sighting on the next target. Kate's voice carries to him.
"We're through. The zombs are sinking. Gun it, Susan."
Ben shifts his weight, anticipating the momentum of increased speed. The slight movement saves his life. A bullet whizzes just past his ear and hits the driver's console.
"Shit!"
Susan cries.
"Will someone please get rid of those fuckers before they kill me?"
The charter boat picks up speed. They're fully in the zombie dragnet now, the tethered dead thrashing as their bodies are dragged down by their own weight. Ben once again takes aim, this time focusing his crosshairs on the driver of the closest boat. The man is hunched over the wheel, while his companions fire on the Fairhaven. All Ben can see are his eyes and the top of his head. It will have to be enough. He squeezes the trigger 3 times in rapid succession. The top of the driver's head explodes in a shower of blood and windshield glass. Then he hears the hollow thunk, thunk, thunk of bullets hitting flesh. He turns in time to see Leo. The man had propped himself up on one knee to fire at their pursuers. Red blooms across the front of his shirt. The rifle falls from his hands. "Damn it!" Ben catches Leo as he falls. "Man down! Susan, get us the fuck out of here!" The Fairhaven rumbles forward through the churning waters. Zombie hands scratch at the side of the boat. Susan ducks down, steering as best she can while gunshots ring behind us. Ash
Caleb and Eric remain crouched down behind the stern and continue to fire. "Leo!" Kate skitters across the deck, hunched over to avoid the bullets. "Ash, I need you over here." Even before Kate reaches Leo, Ben knows the other man is dead. He's seen enough men die to know all the signs. The slack muscles, the unhinged jaw, the blank, staring eyes. And the blood. Too much fucking blood. "Leo!" Kate presses her hands over the open wounds as blood fountains up between her fingers. "Ash!" she yells again. Ash drops to all fours and crawls over to them. "Leo!" Kate is near hysteria. "He's gone." Ash, face crumpled with grief, presses her fingers against the side of Leo's neck. "He's gone, Kate." "No," Kate snaps. "There must be something you can do." Ash stares, eyes moving between Kate and Leo. "I'm sorry, Kate." "No, no, no." Kate pounds her fists on the deck. "Not another one." Tears of anger and frustration pour from her eyes. Ben watches the grief take her again. The guilt. It would be easier to have someone peel the skin from his body. "We're past the dragnet," Susan calls. "I'm taking us into the ocean." The hum of the Fairhaven's engine increases as the boat picks up speed in the open water. "They're not following," Caleb calls. "They're slowing down." Probably because they don't want to waste the gas it would require to pursue them out into open water, Ben thinks grimly. The fuckers put their zombie dragnet here for a reason. Ben shifts, wanting to comfort Kate, but Reed and Eric beat him to it. They kneel on either side, each putting their arms around her. He watches her draw comfort from them. The tension inside him eases, even though the desire to go to her doesn't subside. He always thinks of Reed, Eric, Carter, Jenna, Johnny, and Lila as the original Creekside members. Even though the core group has opened their arms to new members, himself included, there's a closeness between them that doesn't include anyone else. Ben has never been much of a joiner, but there are times when he's envious of them. Times like now. "What the hell just happened?" Kate demands of no one in particular. She wipes at her eyes as Ash drapes a tarp over Leo's body. "Trap," Ben says. "We triggered their alert back in Manila when we stumbled into their stockpile. They drove us neatly into a trap they set up to catch other boats. At least his team has taken out a few of the assholes. He doesn't even want to think about how they're going to get back to Arcata when the time comes. This area of the bay has definitely been taken over by a hostile group. It will be a problem they'll have to deal with at some point." No one speaks. They stand in a lopsided circle around Leo's shrouded body. Poor bastard. Blood seeps out from under the tarp. The whine of the speedboats is gone, their pursuers no longer behind them. "Put Leo's body over the side," Kate says, voice hollow. 49. Open water. Kate. I look at my watch. 6 hours and 23 minutes. That's how much time has passed since I last spoke to Alvarez. We sail through Hookton's Channel and enter the wide waters of the Pacific Ocean. The sea is frothy with slate-gray waves. I sit apart from the others, turning out to face the ocean. A man died because of me today. A good man. And it's all my fault. The ocean spray hits me in the face. I close my eyes, trying to soak in the serenity of the open waves. It doesn't work. For some reason, I don't see Leo's face behind my closed lids. I see his chest where the bullet struck him. I see red that blooms like a Rorschach test before my eyes. The land blurs by on my left, the pale, dun-colored beach and the taller, dark brown rock cliffs. To my right, the ocean is unending miles of slate blue. Time fades into the background. I can't escape the Rorschach blotch. I see it in the variegated patterns of the ocean cliffs. I see it in the ebbing shadows of the ocean. I see it behind my eyelids when the sun hits them. I don't turn when I feel a weight on the seat next to me. I don't want to talk to anyone.
I volunteered to try and convince you to eat dinner.
Ben's gruff voice washes over me.
But I know you don't want to eat.
You're right. I don't. I keep my eyes closed, not ready to face a living human right now.
You're blaming yourself for Leo's death. I get that.
Relief washes over me. I'm glad he didn't try to tell me it's not my fault. The worst part is that I broke up a family. Todd doesn't have anyone now. Leo was his uncle, his flesh and blood. Real biological families are a rarity these days.
Todd has us. Families in this new world are made from the scraps of the old. You know that better than anyone.
I finally turn toward him. When the hell did you become a poet? He grimaces.
Every once in a while, my brain decides it's okay to connect with my mouth. It's not going to be an everyday thing, so don't get too excited.
Our eyes lock. I study his gray irises. I see more in his eyes than I want to. I let my gaze wander, taking in the handsome seams around his eyes, the ones that carry the sorrow he wears on his arms. The white shadow of stubble across his jaw accentuates the strong angle of his face. If he'd remained silent, what would things have been like the night we kissed? I'd be in trouble if you were like this all the time, I murmur.
No chance of that happening.
His breath whooshes out of his lungs.
Not that I need to tell you that. I'm not a nice guy.
That's not true. You're one of the most selfless people I know. You just choose to let the asshole take the lead most days. Another long look passes between us. The yearning I feel in my chest threatens to crack me open. I'm the first to look away. Nothing will bring Leo back, I say.
No. Nothing.
Ben sighs. It's a heavy, weighted sound.
If I bring you some food, will you eat? It will put everyone else on the boat at ease. It won't fix things for you. I get that. But is it so bad to fix things for the ones you love?
He gestures with his chin to the far side of the boat. Eric and Reed sit side by side, each of them eating out of a can of chili. They stare at me, concern plain on their faces. My heart swells at the sight of them. Ben is right. I do love them. They're as much mine as Carter and Jenna.
"You'd do anything else for them," Ben says. "What's a little food in comparison to running through Arcata with alpha zombs after us?"
Reed lifts the can in my direction, head cocked in question.
"Food, Mama?"
he calls.
"What about it, Mama Bear?"
Ben raises a gray eyebrow at me.
"After that, we can get you a tattoo."
What? He shoves up one sleeve of his fatigue shirt to display the tattoos that cover his forearm.
"You can wear the pain."
Does it help?
"Not really. But it beats throwing myself off a 20-story building. Same rules should apply to you."
Is this the part where your mouth and your brain aren't connected? I ask.
Maybe.
Remind me to pick up a roll of duct tape the next time we go scavenging. It might help to keep the asshole at bay if I put a piece over your mouth.
I doubt it.
The eye crinkle he gives me is genuine. The way he looks at me takes my breath away. I think of what Carter had said before we left Arcata. He leaves my side as Reed and Eric approach, one with a spoon and the other with a can of chili.
"It's not warm, but it still tastes good,"
Eric says. I take it from him, even though my stomach is in knots and food is the last thing on my list. Ben's voice plays in my head. Is it so bad to fix things for the ones you love? Thanks, guys. I take the food. They sit on either side of me, keeping me company with their silence as I eat. I soak in their presence, grateful for my apocalypse family. My eyes drift to Ben. He stands beside Susan, the two of them bent over a map. He glances up, our eyes meeting across the deck of the Fairhaven. He gives me a knowing nod as he watches me eat with my boys. I smile back in silent thanks. Even though I can't make sense of all that lies between us, I'm glad he's a part of my apocalypse family, too. "50. Dead in the water." Ben.
They've been boating southward along the coast for 2 hours. Ben paces up and down the deck, unable to relax. Not even the clean, cold air of the Pacific Ocean can calm his nerves. He wants to be at Fort Ross already. The calm before the upcoming battle is making him edgy. He decides it would be a good time to go through the weapon pack and reconfirm their inventory. It will be helpful to have an exact count on their munitions when they get to the fort. Ka-thunk! Ka-thunk! This sound is followed by an awful groan from the Fairhaven.
"Oh, shit,"
Susan says. "What the fuck was that?" Ben snaps.
"Que mierda?"
Ash's voice carries from the bow.
"You guys better come see this."
The Fairhaven gives another groan, the engine coughing and sending up a plume of black smoke. Ben rushes to the bow where Ash stands. Blood and body parts bubble up from beneath the boat. "Damn it," he growls. "I think some zombs got hung up on the bottom of the Fairhaven. They're breaking loose now."
"I can't steer,"
Susan shouts.
"I think there's a body part in the propeller." As if to confirm her statement, the Fairhaven lets loose several loud thuds, followed by a distinct snapping sound. The charter boat instantly decelerates. More zombie parts float free.
"The steering is shot!"
Panic lights Susan's voice.
"She's dead in the water!"
The Fairhaven lurches sideways. A huge wave picks up the boat, driving it toward the coastline. In less than 30 seconds, the half-mile between them and the land is reduced by half.
"Hijo de puta!"
Ash cries.
"Guys, we have another problem. We're headed straight for those rocks."
Kate and everyone else rushes to the bow, including Susan.
"What can we do?"
Kate asks.
"Can someone go under the boat?" "Not with these waves,"
Susan says. As if to emphasize her point, the current gives the boat another shove, driving it toward the coastline.
"Even if the water were calm, I don't have the right gear. The tide is high, and this part of the coast is littered with rock. We are in trouble."
Kate stares, taking in Susan's white face and the waves that push them inexorably closer to the shore.
"Can anything be done to salvage the boat?"
Kate asks.
"Anything at all. I'm open to any idea, even if it sounds crazy." "There's no way for us to repair the propeller out here."
Susan swallows, face pained.
"We're dead in the water. This coast will rip the Fairhaven into kindling."
Ben studies the shoreline. There are rocks for as far as he can see. Big, boat-killing rocks. They're everywhere. And the current seems intent on driving the Fairhaven right into them. He knows what has to be done, but he waits for Kate to say it. Kate shades her eyes, studying the coastline. Her jaw is tense, but she isn't panicked.
"Is there anything at all you can do to steer the ship?"
Kate asks.
"We need to get as close to the shoreline as we can." "The Fairhaven doesn't have sails. There's no way to steer it,"
Susan says.
"What about an anchor?"
Susan's face spasms.
"Gary and I lost it."
She doesn't elaborate. Kate lets out a long exhale.
"Okay. Everyone gather your things. Pack as much food as you can. Prepare to abandon ship."
Susan lets up a wail, but doesn't contradict Kate. In fact, she's the first one to scurry across the deck in search of her running pack.
"Take off your shoes," Kate orders. "They'll weigh you down if you try to swim with them. Tie your shoes to your packs so they aren't lost in the water."
Ben beelines to the weapon pack he collected for their mission. They can't save Alvarez and Fort Ross with running shoes. Next, he strips off his shoes and socks, securing them to the outside of his pack. He packed everything into 2 large backpacks, which he and Caleb had carried to the Fairhaven. They each weigh at least 50 pounds, if not more. He pulls on his backpack of gear. If he's going down, he's going down fully armed. They can't go up against Rosario's people without firearms. The deck of the Fairhaven is quiet. Everyone is quiet as they gather their things. Kate's muscles are taut, her eyes fierce as she pulls on her running pack. This is the woman who has him in knots. She's always at her best when her people are threatened. Nothing gets that woman out of a funk like a threat to her family. Minutes tick by. They're caught in a waiting game. stuck in limbo as they wait for the current to carry them as close as possible to the shore.
"Shit!"
Susan screams.
"Everyone hold on!"
Ben grabs the closest railing as the Fairhaven lurches sideways, grinding against several large rocks. The stern whips around, pushed by the tide. Ben grabs onto the railing to keep from pitching over the side.
"Drop the packs if they're too heavy,"
Kate tells him and Caleb.
"You are both more important than anything in them."
Ben doesn't bother telling her there won't be anything to use against Rosario if they lose the artillery bags. He plans to do his damnedest to get them to shore, if only because he can't stand the thought of what will happen to Kate if they fail to rescue Alvarez. The wait is agonizing. The waves continue to drive the boat closer to the shore, and subsequently closer to the rocks. The tide beats at it with relentless fists, once again spinning the boat around. The Fairhaven surges, driven straight into two boulders. The boat groans, becoming lodged between the two rocks. This is as close as they're going to get to shore. They're 200 yards from land. That's going to be one hell of a swim with these waves and rocks. It's going to make Humboldt Bay look like a cakewalk. Then comes a sound even worse than the sound of the rudder snapping. The hull groans and squeals. Ben can feel the pressure building. The hull snaps. Ben can't see it, but he feels the vibration up through his hands as he grips the railing. Susan cries out,
"No!" "Will the weapons still work if they get wet?"
Kate asks him. "Yes, so long as we dry them out and clean them well." Her attention is on the shoreline. He doesn't have to ask what she's looking at. The rocks. They dot the coastline like zits, some of them as large as the Fairhaven. Swimming through that maze will be a bitch. Doing it with the pack full of weapons might be suicide.
"Drop the artillery bags,"
Kate orders. She picks up a length of rope.
"Tie the packs to one end."
She looks at Ben.
"Are you okay tying the other end around your waist?"
"So we can fish 'em out of the water once we're on shore?"
"Yeah, that way you can cut it away if you need to. Do you think it will work?"
He has a better chance of surviving if all he has to contend with is the rope. He can cut through it pretty easily if things get hairy. It's worth a shot.
"Okay, let's try it. Don't drown on me out there."
She squeezes his wrist. "Back at you," he replies. Ben decides not to dwell on the wrist squeeze. Right now, he has to focus on not dying.
"Everyone get ready to swim,"
Kate calls. Fuck. Twice in one day in the water. Ben is not looking forward to this. His only consolation is that this time he doesn't have to do it in his underwear. His body begins to secrete adrenaline, just like it used to do before he went on a mission or into battle. It makes his heart pound and his limbs jittery. He shifts closer to the portside railing, ready to jump when Kate says the word. A screech of metal goes up from the Fairhaven. The entire ship shudders. Susan's shout is drowned out in the noise. The shoreline seems 1,000 miles away, a maze of jagged rocks standing between them and safety. It will be a miracle if they all make it. We go in groups, Kate calls. We look out for one another. Everyone makes it to shore. Understand?
At everyone's nod, she assigns groups.
Ash and Caleb, Eric and Reed, Susan and Ben.
You're with us, Mama, Reed calls. Kate nods, grouping herself with Eric and Reed. Ben is relieved. Those two will give their all to get Kate to safety.
I don't want to leave.
Susan wraps her arms around her chest.
The Fairhaven is all Gary and I have. We lost everything in the outbreak.
Ben grabs her arm, propelling her to the side of the sinking charter boat. Your husband survived a fucking great white shark. Are you going to let a swim in the Pacific get the better of you? Man up! His words have the desired effect. Susan's face hardens. The agony over the loss of the Fairhaven momentarily buried. Stay with me, Ben tells her. He has no intention of failing Kate. She told him to get Susan to safety, and he plans to do just that.
"51. Swim. Kate. I've never been much of a swimmer. Sure, my parents made sure I was drown-proofed as a kid. Basically, if someone threw me into a swimming pool, I could swim to the edge and get myself out. Which is a far cry from jumping into the rock-riddled waters of the Pacific Ocean coastline. The only alternative is going down with a sinking charter boat. Not an option. I can't let my fear show. Everyone is looking to me to get them out of this. Reed and Eric are glued to either side of me, waiting for the command to jump. Caleb and Ash keep glancing in my direction, watching my face. Ben always keeps track of me, even when we're not on a boat about to sink into the ocean. The only one not paying any attention to me is Susan. She's too busy fretting over the loss of her boat. Time is running out. If I delay any longer, someone is going to drown. Someone might drown anyway. Don't think like that, I chastise myself. We're all going to make it. Even if I have to drag one of my companions by the hair, I'm going to make sure every one of us gets safely to the shore.
We should be happy it's not raining, Eric says. That would really suck. Dude, way to see the glass half full on a boat sinking into the ocean.
Reed and Eric exchange high fives.
Can we save the high fives for the beach?
Caleb growls.
We might not all have hands to high five with by the time we get to shore,
Reed argues. Despite his light tone, the whites show all the way around his eyes. He's as terrified as the rest of us.
Eric and I would just seizing the moment. Carpe diem and all that.
Time to put a stop to the pointless banter before someone ends up with a fist in his face. Judging by the tension knotting Caleb's shoulders, that could be any second now. Everyone makes it to shore alive. I make my voice firm, giving everyone my mother-knows-best confident look. We take care of one another, and we all survive. We jump on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I grab the railing with one hand and fling myself over the side. I scream all the way down, which isn't very far. There are a lot of warm oceans in the world. Florida, Hawaii, Mexico, and Southern California, to name a few. Northern California doesn't make the list. Not by a long shot. And not at any time of the year. The current hits me like a fist, frigid water closing over my head in a burst. Cold shoots all the way to my core, numbing me almost instantly. The ocean soaks my running pack, seawater saturating the light fabric and everything inside. The pack pulls at my shoulders, creating resistance as I kick upward. My head breaks the surface, bare feet and arms churning to keep me afloat. Salt stings my eyes. I turn in a quick circle, making a scan for all my people. Reed and Eric are with me in the water. Ash and Caleb are 10 feet in front of us, the two of them already swimming toward the shore with long, sure strokes. Ben and Susan are nowhere in sight. I spin around, looking back up to the boat. Ben is at the railing, yelling for Susan to hurry. She appears seconds later, red hair blowing in every direction. Big bubbles push to the surface of the water, air pockets from the boat as it sinks from the tear in its hull. "Jump!" I shout to them. Susan turns, moving away from the railing. Ben grabs her, scooping her up. She yells and struggles. Ben drops her over the edge and leaps into the water after her. "Go," I say to Reed and Eric, not waiting to see Susan and Ben surface. They're both in the water. I have to trust they'll help each other to shore. "Swim!" The two of them break into an awkward simulation of the freestyle. It looks more like a glorified dog paddle. My own movements are no better. Waves knock me in every direction, sometimes forward, sometimes backward, sometimes sideways. My eyes sting from the salt water. It's so cold I can hardly breathe. At one point, a pair of waves smashes me and Eric into one another. I grunt, the impact with Eric shoving me under. I kick back to the surface later, fighting my way forward. "Rock!" Reed screams. "Rock!" I turn my head just in time to see an angular black form. It's right in front of me. My heart pounds. I jerk, swimming as hard as I can to the right, trying to cut around the rock. Water surges. My shoulder and rib cage connect painfully with the stone. My bare feet scrape against the rock. Pain spiders through me. I use the contact to push free, shoving myself out and away from the rock. Another swell lifts me, threatening to suck me backwards into the rock. I kick with my legs and pull with my arms, straining to break free. I burst past the swell just in time. It bursts against the rock. The rebound force pushes me forward, another 5 feet closer to the shore. I keep swimming, flicking my eyes in search of Eric and Reed. They're 5 feet in front of me, both pushing hard for the shore. Reed's head swivels as he searches for me. "Right behind you!" My shout swirls away in the crashing waves. I'm not sure if Reed heard me until I see him turn his attention back to the shoreline. My legs and arms burn from the exertion. My eyes sting from the assault of salt water. I cough and splutter each time a wave hits me in the face, choking on the briny water that inevitably creeps into my mouth and down my throat. My running pack drags on me, weighing me down. I grit my teeth, refusing to cast it aside. Losing it could mean dying. 100 yards, I tell myself. That's how far it is to the shoreline. What's 100 yards compared to a 100-mile race? Piece of cake. I've got this. Another wave crashes over my head, pushing me down. 100 yards. So what if I feel like a drowned rat? I've trained for this my entire life, albeit on land instead of in water. I can do this. Pain and physical discomfort is nothing but an inconvenience. It can't stop me. Something scrapes against my feet. A swell flings me forward. I sprawl onto my stomach, the water pushing my body over a jumble of fist-sized rocks. A yowl bursts from my lungs. Water crashes over my head, causing me to choke on another mouthful of seawater. It shoves me hard against the rocks. They scrape against my ribs and knees. Someone grabs my left arm. Someone else grabs my right. I sputter, spitting out water as Eric and Reed haul me to my feet. The side of Reed's face is bloody, blood running out of his nose and along the side of his face from a bad scrape. Half of Eric's shirt is torn, blood staining the edges of the fabric. I latch on to my boys, letting them help me over the rocks. The three of us huddle together against the sheer cliff face that borders the beach. I suck in great gulps of air, wiping water that drips into my eyes. "You guys, okay?" Even as I ask the question, I scan the shoreline. Nearby, Caleb and Ash climb out of the water, holding on to one another as though the wind might whip them apart. They wrestle with the rope attached to Caleb's belt, hauling in the weapons pack. Ash sports gashes on both knees. Ben, Susan. They aren't here yet. I pick my way back toward the waves, large rocks stabbing at the bare soles of my feet. Every step hurts. It feels like the stones are trying to punch through my skin. Ben. My chest seizes. Where is he? I rotate my head to the left and right, scanning the waves. There, I see them. They paddle beside one another, pushing hard for the shore. The pain in my feet becomes inconsequential. I shed my pack and rush forward, splashing up to my knees in the surf. Susan and Ben ride the waves. A swell picks them up, hurling both straight toward the shore. I jump toward Ben, latching onto his arm as he surges by. Caleb appears out of nowhere, grabbing Susan. The two of us hold on to our friends, keeping them from doing a faceplant into the rocky shore. Ben manages to get his legs underneath him, locking wobbly knees as the tide rushes back out. He coughs up water. Leaning on his knees, he vomits up what seems like half the ocean. His chest heaves as he straightens. "I've never been much of a swimmer," he gasps. I give his arm an encouraging squeeze. "Join the club. Come on, let's get the weapons in." Together, we haul on the rope still tied to his belt. The pack catches a few times on the rocks, but with a little patience, the ebb of the tide eventually brings it to us. My teeth chatter as I stand there in sopping wet clothes. Ben shivers beside me. "If I was good with words, I'd find a subtle way to put my arm around you," he says, teeth chattering. "We both know how well that would go, so I'm just gonna lay it out straight. I'm freezing my balls off. Can I put my arm around you?" I can't help it. I bark a laugh. Ben does that eye crinkle thing again, swinging the sopping weapons pack onto his back. "Is that a yes?" "Only because you're freezing your balls off. If it was any other appendage, you'd be out of luck." "Look at that," Caleb says. "One of your moves finally paid off, old man." I'd forgotten he was standing here, but I'm too cold to care. Ben flips him the bird and puts his arm around my shoulders, pulling me tight against his side. Truth be told, it doesn't help. I'm still freezing, but it feels good to have him touch me. I haven't been touched, really touched, since Kyle died. It's been almost 3 years. It makes me realize how lonely I've been. I relax against Ben as we join the rest of the group against the face of the cliff, enjoying this odd moment between us. The rest of the group is huddled together. The beach is strewn with debris, driftwood, lumps of seaweed, and even the bodies of unfortunate sea creatures. A half-decayed bird carcass is tangled in a clump of seaweed. Dead starfish and purple sea urchins dot the rocks. I even spot the scattered bones of long-dead animals. Past the crashing waves, I see the angles of the sinking ship. Susan watches in stony silence. I can't tell if it's tears or seawater streaking her cheeks. "The Fairhaven was everything to us," she says to no one in particular, voice dull. "All our savings, our home, our livelihood." No one says anything. I search for the right words. In some ways, it feels like another fatality. I know it's only a boat, but to Susan, it's so much more than that. Hell, to all of us, it's more than just a boat. It was our way to Alvarez. It was our way back to Arcata. Another fatality on my shoulders. If I hadn't insisted on trying to help Alvarez, Leo would still be alive. The Fairhaven would still be in one piece.
"It was a total bitch to get to the boat from Creekside anyway," Reed says after a few moments of extended glum silence. "If I had to cross Samoa Highway one more time, I was gonna go postal." This breaks up the tension. It also, unfortunately, brings up the next question. "Now what?" Caleb asks. Everyone looks at me. "Yeah, now what, Mama Bear?" I think bitterly. Here I thought I'd be a knight in shining armor, rescuing Alvarez and the residents of Fort Ross. All I've managed to do is get some of my people killed and strand the rest on a deserted beach. I look at my watch. 9 hours have passed. The first of Alvarez's people will be executed in 15 hours. There's not a damn thing I can do about it. I don't know where we are, but we must be at least 100 miles away from Fort Ross, probably farther. My people could make the journey, but at what cost? How many others will I lose? "This isn't what you guys signed up for," I say. "We've had nothing but disaster since we set out from Creekside. Everything has been complete shit, and we haven't even gone very far. And now we're beached like dead whales, who knows where." Anger creeps into my voice, frustration over our situation. I have no idea how to get home. I have no idea how to get to Fort Ross. I sweep my gaze over each face. Susan stares at her sinking boat. I think half her heart is still on the Fairhaven. Reed and Eric watch me with blind loyalty. I have no doubt they'll follow wherever I lead. Their devotion is a heavy weight to bear. Ash and Caleb aren't much different. When they look at me, they see their leader. And then there's Ben. I may not know how to handle the attraction between us, but I have no doubt he'll go wherever I lead. I can't do this. I can't drag them into more danger. The price has already been too high. Home. The word is dragged from my throat. We need to figure out a way home. I expect sighs of relief. I expect a few of them to be happy the crazy train is turning around. "That's not what you really want to do," Ben says. "Don't lie to us."
I shake my head. I can't drag you guys on foot all the way to Fort Ross. It's... Susan, how far is it? She shrugs, turning away from the water. 100 miles, give or take. Rummaging around in her pack, she pulls out the sodden tide book and a crinkled map. "Let me figure out where we are."
"You don't know?"
Ben asks her.
"Weren't you paying attention?"
Getting shot at and driving through a zombie dragnet may have fucked up on my concentration.
Susan shoots back. Surprise registers on Ben's face. The idiot is no doubt just realizing he was being an ass. I step between them in an effort to spare them both. It's not fair for me to drag you guys 100 miles into a war that might be lost by the time we get there, I say.
It probably won't be lost.
Ben surprises me with his optimism.
You don't think so?
He shrugs.
There will just be a bigger shithole to dig them out of.
Now there's the cynicism I've come to expect.
Leo wanted Rosario taken down, Ash says. If we turn back now, he'll have died for nothing. If we turn back now, I sacrificed the Fairhaven for nothing.
Susan's jaw is set in a hard line as she grips the edges of her soggy map.
I know everyone here has lost a home. I shouldn't be such a baby about it, but damn it, I loved that boat. If I have to face Gary and tell him it's gone, I want it to be for a good reason.
They need us, Reed says. Alvarez is our friend. You said he saved your life.
He did, but...
Foot soldier saved my mama. Life for a life. Let's go get his sorry ass and kill those fuckers who want to steal his house.
Fort, Eric corrects.
It's a frontier fort, Reed. Dude, you know what I mean.
Don't quit on us now, Ash says. You're on Mama Bear. Mama Bear doesn't quit when things are hard and scary. Hell, you went unarmed into the frat house and delivered that bottle of brandy laced with acid. This is practically a cakewalk compared to that. Tell me I'm wrong.
Her eyes narrow at me in challenge. My throat tightens. Emotion presses against the back of my eyes. I try one more time.
This has been nothing but a shit show since we left Creekside.
And it's going to be a shit show no matter what direction we go.
Eric leans forward.
You've trained us for this, Kate. We're ready to make this journey. We can get to Fort Ross in what? A day, if we push hard? Maybe 2? 2 at most, Reed agrees. I'm pretty sure Alvarez would rather us be fashionably late than not show up at all.
I draw in a long, slow breath. When I cast my eyes around the circle, I see 6 people ready to walk into hell. Or run into hell, if I'm being accurate. Okay, let's do this. People slap one another on the back and grin. Reed wraps me in a bear hug. So much for trying to do the right thing.
If there are survivors at Fort Ross, we save them,
Ben says.
And if there are no survivors, we eliminate every last one of Rosario's people.
Even if we have to burn down Fort Ross to do it, I add. This time Caleb gives me a bear hug.
That's the mama bear we know and love. Did you bring any acid?
I punch him lightly on the shoulder as everyone laughs. We build a fire and take a 1-hour break to dry and get warm, I say. Then we get moving. We need to cover as much ground as we can before the sun goes down. We break into small groups. I stray away by myself to gather driftwood and dry seaweed, needing to think. Our journey is not going to be easy. I need to...
Guys!
It's Reed.
Look what I found!
Reed holds a long piece of driftwood in one hand, holding it over a small exposed section of sand about 20 feet away. Approaching him, I spot the biggest footprint I've ever seen. It's round, 4 inches across the widest part with 5 giant toes.
A chill crawls up my spine that has nothing to do with my damp clothing or the coastal breeze.
I was just taking a piss when I noticed it,
Reed explains, using his free hand to gesture with excitement.
I mean, what are the chances I'd find it? There's hardly any exposed sand out here. Do you think—
Oh, shit! Susan's words crackle. I stiffen, turning sharply in her direction. What? Motherfucker! She stares at the map in horror. We're in one of the impassable zones of the Lost Coast. What? My stomach flip-flops. What makes you say that? Susan spreads the sodden map out on the ground, weighing the corners down with rocks. The rest of us gather around for a closer look. See here and here? Susan taps 2 curves of the coastline on the map. That spit of land you see there? She points to a jetting cliff just north of us. Is this point. And that point to the south of us is right here. Again, she shows us a place on the map. We're in the southern impassable zone of the Lost Coast. Are you sure? I ask. Is there any chance you could be mistaken? Even without the map, the signs are all here, Susan replies. That footprint Reed found belongs to a black bear. Bears live on the Lost Coast. Plus, there are all the dead animals on the beach. Her eyes are anguished as she gestures to the dead bird, the many animal bones, and the dried-up sea urchins and starfish. The impassable zone is infamous for killing everything. I'm so sorry. I should have been paying better attention. Now the tide is coming in. I momentarily stop breathing. She's right. The tide has been creeping in ever since we arrived. I don't need a tide chart to see the strip of land between the cliffs and the water is narrowing. This is bad. Very, very bad. Fuck. I breathe. The Lost Coast is legendary in the ultra-running world. Federico and I had spent our fair share of time dreaming about it and poring over its details on the internet. We'd talked on and off over the years about running here, but never got organized enough to do it. The complete trail is a little over 50 miles. Experienced backpackers will take 6 to 8 days to complete the route. Ballsy ultra-runners will do it in 1 day, but not without meticulous planning around the tide. The Lost Coast is famous for its rocky beaches, remote tranquility, and wildlife. Most specifically, it's known for its impassable tidal zones, areas of the trail that get completely covered with waves and riptides at high tide. And we're standing in one. "52. Tide. Kate."
Will someone please explain what the fuck is going on?
Ben demands.
What the hell is an impassable zone?
Eric asks. I'll tell you as we go. I turn to the group. Everyone, grab your shit and get your shoes on. You have 3 minutes. Go. Shit, shit, shit! Susan yells. We're going to die out here! We're not going to die, I snap. Get your shoes on, Susan. I hurry to pull sodden socks out of my pack and shove my feet into equally sodden running shoes. Ben and Caleb fasten on the large bags laden with weapons. Damn. I wish there was time to rearrange all the gear so they didn't have the lion's share of the burden. Everyone, fall into line single file behind me, I say. Reed, you're my strongest runner. You bring up the rear. It's your job to make sure no one falls behind. Can you do that?
Yes, Mama.
Reed takes his place at the back of the pack, solemn in his assignment. He might be a goofball much of the time, but he knows when it's time to drop the act and put on his game face. Everyone listen to me very closely. I continue. We are in a very dangerous section of Northern California. It's called the Lost Coast. It's so rugged that when they built Highway 1, the authorities decided it was too treacherous and that it was just easier to divert inland. And those guys had dynamite and heavy equipment. There are several sections of the Lost Coast Trail that are impassable at high tide. People have died out here. The tide is rising. This section of the beach will soon be completely covered in seawater. If you don't drown in the high waters, the riptides will suck you out to sea.
How long is this section?
Caleb asks. From everything I had read on the Lost Coast, the 2 impassable sections are each about 4 miles long. I turn to Susan for verification. 4 miles?
They're about.
She's once again gripping her red hair in her hands. We have to run, I say. The rocks are going to make this hard. This is nothing like running on the track, or even around the streets with zombies. Keep your eyes on the ground. Always track 1 to 2 steps ahead to make sure you don't fall or roll an ankle. Whatever you do, haul ass. Susan, how much time do we have before the tide is fully in?
An hour?
Susan looks at us with helplessness.
Not much more than that.
Got that? I sweep my eyes over my people. 1 hour. It will be a hard hour. Run hard. Remember, keep your eyes 1 to 2 steps ahead of where you plan to step. Let's move. To the average person, running 15-minute miles might sound like a piece of cake. Hell, even at a fast stroll, a person should be able to walk a mile in 15 minutes. But we're on a beach. There is no beach in the world where a runner will be as fast as he is on pavement. This particular beach, with its jumble of sea-tossed rocks, is even worse. Even though I told the group we have to run, true running isn't possible. There's no way to establish an even gait with the uneven terrain. It's more like loping strides as we leap among the rocks. We haven't gone more than 50 feet before someone behind me goes down with a yell. It's Susan.
I'm fine.
She staggers to her feet, favoring one ankle.
Twisted my foot on a rock.
I give her my best mama bear look. You have to ignore the pain, I tell her. Don't focus on it. Focus on getting the fuck off this stretch of land and into the safe zone. You got it? I don't wait for her to respond. There is no time to baby anyone out here. If I let up, we could all die. The water edges inexorably closer as we run. I try not to look at the patch of giant boulders that approaches ahead of us, all of them hugging the tall cliffs. As the water creeps closer, it will force us onto those large rocks. Fear pounds in my temples. I push as hard as I dare, slowed by the rocks underfoot. Breath saws in and out of my lungs, partly from exertion, partly from fear. A shout goes up behind me. I turn in time to see Ash go down. A wave drenches her. Eric and Caleb haul her to her feet. She splutters, wiping salt spray out of her eyes.
I'm fine,
she gasps, face set with determination.
I just slipped.
There is blood on her hands where she caught herself on the rocks, but otherwise she looks okay. I nod and plow onward, focusing on the terrain right in front of me. How are Ben and Caleb faring with the weapon packs? A glance over my shoulder shows them keeping pace, but how long can they keep it up? The weapons won't mean a thing if we drown out here trying to hang on to them. We can find other weapons. We can make other weapons. And I still have the Alpha Zom recording. I open my mouth, ready to tell Ben and Caleb to ditch the bags. Just as I do, a giant wave looms up, foamy fingers reaching for me. It crashes down over my head, sucking my feet out from under me. Water gushes down my throat and nose. I tumble sightlessly through the waves. Rocks scrape against my back, A scream tries to force its way out of my mouth. All I get is another lungful of water. My eyes sting from the salt water. All around me is cold and blackness. "53. Sprint. Ben."
It's a stop-action horror movie unfolding right before his eyes. Ben sees the wave coming. He sees Kate standing in its path. He opens his mouth, but there's no time to shout a warning. 1 second, Kate is standing there. The next second, she's gone. His entire world stops spinning. No. She can't be gone. Kate! Caleb drops his artillery pack to the ground.
"Caleb!"
Ash screams, but he's already leaped into the water. Fuck this. Ben drops his pack. He doesn't give a shit if he drowns. If he loses Kate, there's no reason to keep going. As he splashes into the ocean, he finds Reed by his side. The boy's mouth is set, eyes narrowed in concentration. "We are not losing Mama," he states. "Fucking right we're not losing her," Ben snarls. A wave rushes them. He and Reed grab onto one another. Ben bends his knees and braces himself. The cold descends, sucking the breath from his lungs. It yanks at him, trying to haul him out to sea. Ben digs his nails into Reed's arms and leans back, fighting the pull of the water. The wave is gone almost as quickly as it arrives. He and Reed sputter in the surf, still hanging on to one another like lifelines. Ben searches the waves. There. He sees Kate's cropped hair. It disappears, sucked under by a wave. A second later, he sees the sleeve of her pink shirt. Caleb cuts through the waves, snagging the flash of pink. Kate's head appears as Caleb drags her upright. The younger man battles the waves, trying to drag them both to shore. "Come on!" Reed cries. Caleb and Kate are no more than 10 feet away, struggling toward them. Ben and Reed fight their way through the surf to Kate and Caleb. Kate's face is set, the fight in every muscle. Caleb looks like a spawn of Poseidon rising out of the surf, one hand still tangled in Kate's shirt as salt water streams down his face. Reed and Ben each grab one of Kate's arms, freeing Caleb to steady himself. The 4 of them fight their way through the waves that suck at their feet and legs. Kate heaves, throwing up water even as she forces her feet to carry her back to the shore. As soon as they exit the water, she croaks out a single word. "Move!" Everyone stares at her as she vomits up more seawater. "Move!" she snaps. "Reed, lead them." "But—" "Go!" she screams. Reed takes off, leading the pack. Ben takes up the rear with Kate, shouldering the pack of weapons. "Leave it," she wheezes beside him. "Too heavy." "No." She coughs, taking a few staggering steps forward. She should be wrapped in a blanket by a fire with something warm to drink, not trying to run down this God-forsaken stretch of beach. "You're not dying for that shit," she tells him. "I'm not dying. Move, Kate." She glares at him, though not with any heat. He watches her set her jaw and plow forward. He glues himself to her side,
matching her pace. Now, finally, he has a true understanding of what she's been training them for. Why she talked about the importance of relegating pain to a distant part of the mind and pushing on. Why she insisted they all be able to run for 4 hours straight without being tired or sore the next day. Why she made them run up and down the bleacher stairs. Why she made them sprint around the track. It was all for this, so that when the day came, they could keep themselves alive. The terrain is complete shit. It wasn't made for running. Kate makes it look easy, springing along beside him. She might look like a drowned cat, but she moves like a gazelle. Ben lumbers along, lungs burning. The pack drags on his shoulders. He refuses to let it slow him down. He's hauled packs every bit as heavy as this before. Granted, he wasn't running for his life from the goddamn ocean, but he's logged lots of hours with heavy gear packs. They're getting out of this place with their guns, no matter what. Water splashes around his feet. Damn it. The tide has crept up even farther, pushing them up against the cliffs. He grits his teeth, moving several inches away from the water. They can't afford to play chicken with the surf. It cost them precious minutes to save Kate. They might not be so lucky a second time. The bleached remains of an enormous tree looms before them, ejected from the ocean on the lost coast. It sits perpendicular to the shore, blocking their path. The trunk is 3 feet in some places. Those in front of them clamber over before disappearing down the far side. He and Kate tackle the tree, the two of them grappling with the smooth bark. Kate flings one leg sideways and slides over. Ben follows suit. They land on the other side and keep running, catching up with the rest of the group.
"See that spit of land?"
Susan points, never slowing her pace. She limps on her twisted ankle, but manages to keep up with the rest of the group.
"Just on the other side of those boulders. We'll be safe there."
"That's at least a mile away," Eric says.
No one has a reply to that. The water pushes them closer and closer toward the cliff. Motherfucker. He grits his teeth and throws all his concentration into running. Left foot, right foot, watch that rock. Left foot, sidestep that chunk of driftwood, right foot. His legs burn, his chest burns, his shoulders ache. He's wet, he's cold, but he's alive. And he intends to stay that way. The pain and discomfort of trying to sprint down a rocky beach can go fuck itself. Eric trips on a rock and sprawls. Ben grabs him by the back of his pack, hauling him up. The side of his cheek has a gash. The front of his shirt is torn.
"Don't stop,"
Kate huffs.
"Shake it off, Eric."
He nods, pushing up his glasses, and keeps running. Kate has conditioned the shit out of these kids. He doesn't know any other barely 20 idiot who could push hard like this without complaint. Who would have thought that running for his life along a beach in the middle of nowhere would make him admire Kate even more than he already does? Life can be fucked up like that.
"Push!"
Kate screams.
"Run with everything you've got!"
She follows her own order, picking up her pace. Ben struggles to keep up. It's obvious why she's ratcheting up the tension.
The last 500 yards is a field of massive boulders. Once they hit those rocks, it will be a full-out scramble. And most of them are already covered with water.
"54. Impassable Zone. Kate. I'm wet. I'm cold. I'm terrified. Worries scroll through my brain. What if someone falls and breaks something? What if another sneaker wave comes? What if the weapon packs are too heavy? What if we can't cross the boulders in time? What if? I feel like I'm running in jello. I know what my body is capable of, but the terrain holds me back, and every millisecond of delay brings the tide closer to us. I drop back behind Ben, determined to see every last one of my people out of the impassable zone.
"Stay next to me,"
Ben snaps, wheezing as he sucks in air.
"I can't see you."
"It's too narrow," I snap back, maintaining my position behind him. Running side by side will mean one of us will be in the water, which is too dangerous. I'll be fine. Keep moving. He grinds to a halt.
"I need to be able to see you."
"Move, goddammit!" I scream at him. He gives me a solid glare before turning his back on me and resuming his run. Our stretch of beach abruptly disappears, depositing us at the foot of the boulder field. Ben scrambles onto them, pausing only long enough to make sure I'm still behind him. I leap up after him, legs bent and arms stretched forward for balance. I move like a giant crab, leaping from rock to rock. Each time I land, I crouch only long enough to secure my balance with my hands. Then I leap for the next stone.
"I'm too old for this shit,"
Ben gasps. Despite his complaining, he moves with the same dexterity as the younger men. Even with the giant pack on his back, his balance is solid. His active life in the military has kept him in great shape. I scramble and leap along with him. The ocean pounds the rocks directly to our right, sending up spray and gouts of water. Our path narrows as the water reaches steadily for us. Ahead of us, a huge wave rears over the shore. It looms directly over Ash and Caleb. The rest of the crew is only a short distance ahead of them. "Look out!" I shriek. Their reflexes are whip-quick. Ash drops down between two large rocks and wedges herself between them. Caleb throws his arms around a boulder. Reed, Eric, and Susan dash forward, cranking hard to get ahead of the water. Caleb and Ash are lost in a crash of gray water and white flecks of sea foam. I freeze where I am, crouched on a giant black boulder beside Ben. I hold my breath, waiting for the tide to recede. The water rolls back. I let out a cry of relief when Ash and Caleb pop up from the rocks and continue their frantic scramble. We catch up to them, the four of us spidering together over the rocks. The others have reached the safe zone. Ben slips. He tips sideways with a shout. "Got you!" I grab his arm, counterbalancing him with my own weight.
"Thanks."
He shoves a neighboring boulder with his foot, righting himself. I leap for the next rock, right as another wave rears up. "Get back!" I cry, lunging closer to the cliff wall. Ben, Caleb, and Ash all do the same. I reach out and latch onto Ben's hand just as the wave hits us. The water pulls at his body. Digging my nails into his flesh, I hang on, refusing to let go. I wedge my feet between two rocks, bending my knees for leverage. Shivering and terrified, I shake my head to clear water from my eyes as the wave recedes. Ash crouches beside me. Ben is draped on the rocks by my feet, both of my arms wrapped around his forearm. "Caleb!" Ash scrambles to where he lays on his back in the valley between several rocks. "Caleb!" Keeping one eye on the water, I join Ash. Ben is right behind me. We reach Caleb as he picks himself up. A nasty, jagged cut gushes blood across his thigh. "You're okay," I tell him, looping an arm under one armpit to lever him up. Ash grabs his other arm while Ben grabs the back of his pack. "You're okay, Caleb." I have no idea if he really is okay. I only know that he has to be okay enough to make it another 250 yards to the end of the impassable zone. Reed, Susan, and Eric have all made it. They wave their arms and yell at us from a safe spot well away from the water.
"Incoming!"
Reed bellows. I look up just as another wave hits us. I throw my arms around Caleb, clinging to him. I have a brief flash of Ben and Ash doing the same thing. The four of us hang on for dear life as another wave closes over our heads. We're pushed sideways toward the cliff. Stone presses into my side. Water rushes over my face. I refuse to let go. As soon as the water clears, we hurry to right ourselves. Caleb sits up, lifting himself off me. Ben picks himself up off the rocks. Ash removes herself from the top of Caleb's bad leg where she fell. "You're okay," I murmur to Caleb. 250 yards. You've got this."
"I've got this,"
he growls in agreement, jaw set with determination. He lifts himself up, springing forward with more agility than I would have thought possible considering his wound. By this time, we're forced to hug the side of the cliff, scrambling over the boulders as fast as we can as waves collide into the rocks at our feet. My back aches from the constant crouch. My quads burn from the squatting. I ignore the pain, throwing all my focus at safety. Safety. It's no more than 200 yards away. A surge of water rises around us, soaking us up to our ankles. The world beneath our feet becomes inky black. We're forced to halt and wait for the water to recede so we can see where to step.
"Don't stop!"
Eric yells.
"Hurry!"
I grind my teeth, resisting the urge to shout back. As soon as the water clears, we're off again. Ash leads the way, springing from rock to rock like a gymnast. She doesn't even have to lean forward to balance with her hands like the rest of us. 150 yards. We're almost there. Another surge of water gushes forward, this time rushing all the way up to our knees. I grab onto the side of the cliff for balance as the tide sucks back out, leaning and fighting for balance. 100 yards. Caleb stumbles on his injured leg. Ben catches him, keeping him upright. Seeing the two men work together gives me a surge of pride. The feeling is short-lived as water once again gushes forward. This time it comes up to our thighs. This time it doesn't recede. "Shit!" I snarl. To my people I bark, "Move! The tide is in! Swim!" Ash, still in the lead, is the first to splash down into the surf. The tide pulls at her. She fights to stay on course for the safe zone on the far side of the rocks. 50 yards! That's all that lies between us and safety. "Drop the packs," I order. "Now!" Caleb doesn't hesitate. He slings off his weapons pack and chucks it as hard as he can in the surf. With any luck, it will wash up onto shore. Honestly, I don't care what happens to the weapons so long as Caleb is safe. He jumps after Ash, long, sure strokes cutting through the water. Ben hesitates. There is no time for arguing. I summon every ounce of Mama Bear authority. "Drop it, Ben. Right now." Cursing, he flings the pack into the water. He crouches against the cliff, fear plain on his face. I recall he's not a strong swimmer. "Hang on to me," I order, grabbing his hand. "Don't let go." I drag him forward into the surf. The tide is unyielding. First it sucks us out toward the ocean, only seconds later to shove us back toward the cliff. I do my best to stay upright, kicking off the rocks beneath my feet. I paddle with my free hand, gripping Ben's hand in the other. Together, the two of us fight our way forward. 25 yards. It's the longest sprint of my life. Half running, half swimming through water, I hang on to my friend as the ocean tosses us back and forth like pieces of driftwood.
"Let go of me,"
Ben gasps, sputtering as a wave douses him in the face. "Not an option," I grind out in response. A wave rushes toward us. I coil my legs in readiness. Right before the breaker hits us, I push off, dragging Ben after me. The water picks us up, hurling us toward the shore, and right into the waiting arms of Eric and Reed.
"We got you,"
Eric yells, grabbing Ben by the neckline of his shirt.
"Come on, Mama."
Reed wraps both arms around me, dragging me toward safety. Another wave hits us. The four of us tumble backward. A searing pain rips across my right hip as I'm sucked over a rock. Reed and I tumble free of the surf, rolling onto a rocky shoreline. A heartbeat later, Eric and Ben wash up beside us. Susan, Ash, and Caleb are all there. They help us to our feet. Half staggering, half running, we rush away from the water. I nearly sob with relief when my feet hit sand. Granted, it's not the fine sand you find at a tropical beach. It's thick-grained sand made up of hundreds of tiny pebbles, but it's still sand. As soon as there's 100 yards between us and the surf, we collapse in a heap. Wet, injured, and exhausted, we lay in a silent, gasping heap. And just when I think we've finally earned a reprieve, it starts to rain.